So what to do, YouTube? It's your boy King David in this thing, and I'm back at y'all again with another video.
Bitch ass motherfucker. What happened?
So before I get going on the video, man, y'all know what to do. Go ahead, hit the like button, and if you're new here, be sure to subscribe one time for your boy, so we can continue to grow like we need to grow on this channel. You know what I mean?
You won the belt with nobody.
Alright, so cool. Y'all see what the title of the video is. Demetrius Andrade did not duck Jannibek Alimkhanuliy. Stop the cap. Stop it.
Stop the cap.
So I just can't believe that I'm even having to do this video right now. I really can't believe it. You know what I mean? But here I am doing a video explaining what should be obvious to anybody who knows anything about boxing. You know what I'm saying? So again, y'all see what the title of the video is. I'm about to break down exactly why this is not a duck from Demetrius Andrade and kind of put some of the facts out there, because one thing that the boxing community seems to be lacking are facts. So that's exactly what your boy King David is here to do. Put the facts out there and show you exactly why Demetrius Andrade is not ducking Jannibek Alimkhanuliy, right? Okay, so cool. To summarize, there's 4 major reasons why this is not a duck, right? And I'm gonna break it down for you. The first reason this is not a duck, and again, all this shit should be obvious, but the first reason this is not a duck is Andrade has nothing to gain by fighting Janibek. I know a lot of you dudes out there feel like this is an excuse, but bringing something to the table is what boxing is about. Boxing, at the end of the day, is prize fighting, right? If you go back far enough in the history of boxing, you'll find that it was originally called prize fighting, meaning you would get 2 guys and they would fight for a prize, right? Usually that would be a big pot of money, right? But in this case, the game has kind of changed a little bit. It's not always a big pot of money that's the prize. In a lot of cases, it's other things, right? But either way, the concept remains the same. Usually you have fighters, they fight for prize, right? Demetrius Andrade, when it comes to Jannibek Alimkhanuliy, there's no prize. And a lot of you niggas have no rebuttals for that. There's no prize. Demetrius Andrade has absolutely nothing to gain by fighting Jannibek Alimkhanuliy. There's no money. As a matter of fact, Andrade would have to take a pay cut. There's no belt, no recognition. There's no ranking, right? Because Demetrius Andrade's not trying to get a ranking in order to fight a belt, right? It doesn't lead to any other opportunity.
Fighting because somebody mailed him the belt.
There's no sort of prize associated with the Jannibek Alimkhanuliy fight. And I don't get why you niggas don't understand this very simple concept. I mean, money and legacy, the 2 biggest things that fighters fight for. None of those things would be achieved by Andrade fighting Jannibek Alimkhanuliy. These are facts.
I know that.
How many of you dudes would go to work for no pay? You know what I'm saying? Like, I really want to know, how many of you dudes would go to work if you knew you wasn't gonna get paid? Would you go? Would you go to work if you knew you weren't gonna get paid? Right? Serious question for the people out there who say Demetrius Andrade is ducking Janibek. Would you go to work for no pay? Because when you're telling a prize fighter to fight for no prize, essentially you're telling a prize fighter to go to work for no pay. So you haters that always be in my comment section, I'm gonna need y'all to answer that. Before you type your hateful bullshit, answer that question. Would you go to work for no pay? Because if you wouldn't, then you shouldn't ask anyone else to do it. You know what I mean? But with all that being said, let's go on and get on to the second reason why this is not a duck.
He's got beat by like a basic foundation.
And the second reason this ain't no duck is because since when is fighting a tougher opponent a duck? Demetrius Andrade will be moving up to fight Zach Parker, who's a bigger guy in a higher weight class with more fights and more knockouts. Tougher opponent. And if you're saying anything different, where are the accolades to back up what it is that you're saying? How many world championship belts has Janibek won compared to Zach Parker? How many world champions has Jannibek beaten as opposed to Zach Parker, right? And I'm not talking about washed up ass world champions like Hassan and Dom. I'm talking about current world champions, right? Because you dudes like to make these straw man ass arguments and make it seem like Jannibek has done so much more than any and everybody else on Andrade's resume, when the facts are he hasn't. The facts are Jannibek has done nothing more than anyone else on Andrade's resume, including Zach Parker. So how is Jannibek a tougher opponent?
Oh, look at this guy.
Oh, I know, because you looked at Jannibek and he's the real deal, right? According to the eye test, right? You guys' eye test. He's the real deal. So that makes it better than Zach Parker. Also because he's the mandatory, and Andrade didn't fight his mandatory, even though he's been fighting mandatories for the last his entire career. Literally. He's been fighting mandatories. And you guys haven't been giving him credit for fighting those mandatories. And you're not going to give him credit for fighting this mandatory. Yet and still you want to tell him he's ducking for not fighting yet another mandatory on his way up to a higher weight class with a tougher opponent, with more fights and more knockouts. Oh, I know. Jannibek has a really good amateur career, right? He's an amateur standout, right? Wasn't Vanes Martirosyan an amateur standout? Wasn't Jack Colkay an amateur standout? So again, how is Jannibek a tougher opponent? What has he done any different than anyone else on Andrade's resume? And for that matter, Zach Parker. Right? But you dudes don't want to talk about facts. You rather talk about ways to discredit Demetrius Andrade in order to solidify your bullshit ass narratives and talking points. But let's keep it going on to the third reason why this ain't no damn duck.
Canelo, you a bitch. I'm putting it out there.
And the third reason that this ain't no damn duck is, since when is moving up to a higher weight class a duck all the time, right? Now, I'm not going to sit here and cap and say that when a guy moves up, it's not a duck sometimes, because it is a duck sometimes, right? But most of the time, it's not a duck, right? Most of the time when you move up in weight, you're moving up to a bigger and a better weight class. Most of the time, right? Bigger guys. Usually because you can't make the weight no more. Usually because you're looking for a new challenge and the fight you're looking for at that particular weight class ain't producing. Those are usually the reasons why you move up. So since when is moving up in weight been the equivalent to ducking fighters unanimously, right? That ain't how shit works.
Bitch ass motherfucker. What?
It certainly don't work like that when your favorite fighter is involved, right? Because Canelo Alvarez moved up to 175 pounds to fight Dimitri Bivol. So that must mean that he ducked David Benavidez, who's the #1 guy in the WBC. Isn't that what that would mean? According to this logic.
Oh, look at this guy.
I love Terrence Crawford, but Terrence Crawford moved up from 140 to 147, dropped his IBF belt so he wouldn't have to fight Sergey Lipinets at the time. So does that mean that Terrence Crawford ducked Sergey Lipinets? Right? The winner of Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford fight is set to happen right now. And as of right now, there's 3 mandatories at 147 pounds between Jerron Boots Ennis, Stanley Jonas, and Keith Thurman. So does that mean that if both Errol Spence Jr. or the winner of Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford doesn't fight all 3 of those guys and they move up without fighting all 3 of those guys, does that mean that they're ducking? Does it mean that Canelo Alvarez is ducking by moving up to 175 pounds to fight Dimitri Bivol when Zach Parker has been the mandatory for the last year? Does that mean that he's ducking? Since when does a guy moving up to a new weight class unanimously mean that he's ducking? Especially a guy like a Jannibek Alimkhanuliy, someone that Demetrius Andrade has absolutely nothing to gain by fighting. You know what I mean? But I think y'all get the point. Let's go on and move on to the 4th and final reason why this is not a duck.
He called me a horrible fighter, but he just got beat by like a basic foundation.
Janibek shouldn't be Andrade's mandatory in the first place.
Oh, look at this guy.
Jesus Christ.
So I know that got y'all attention. I know for a fact that got y'all attention because the whole reason why a lot of you dudes believe Andrade should fight Jannibek is because Jannibek is the mandatory, right? For Andrade's WBO belt. But what if I told you that Jannibek shouldn't be the mandatory to begin with? Would you still believe that this is a duck? Would you still think that Andrade should fight Jannibek if I told you Jannibek shouldn't be the mandatory to begin with? Now I know that's gonna be very troubling for a lot of you fanboys to hear, right? Because your very argument that you're using to say that Andrade should fight Jannibek, the very argument that you guys are using is bunk to begin with, right? And I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you how it's bunk. And really there are 3 major points that I want to outline and showing you that Jannibek shouldn't have even been the mandatory or shouldn't even be in a position to begin with to challenge Demetrius Andrade, right? So the first scenario I want to give you is back in 2019 where Demetrius Andrade was trying to move up to 168 pounds, right? And he petitioned the WBO to fight Billy Joe Saunders. Now, for those of you who don't know, the WBO is the only sanctioning body that allows the champion in the lower weight division to challenge the champion in the higher weight division right away, right? Billy Joe Saunders had no mandatories at the time, so really there was no reason for the WBO to turn down a petition from Andrade to fight Billy Joe Saunders, right? Nevertheless, the WBO turned down the petition for Andrade to fight Billy Joe Saunders, right? And just to give you guys a hint as to why they turned down Andrade's petition, this was right around the time Canelo Alvarez announced that he was going to make a 168-pound undisputed run. So I'll let you guys use your imagination in order to determine why the WBO turned down that petition. Nevertheless, that's the first example right there. Because had the WBO accepted Andrade's petition for him to fight Billy Joe Saunders, he would have never even been at 160 for Jannibek to even challenge as the champion. So that's the first point I want to give y'all, right? The second point I want to give y'all is, if y'all recall correctly, both Chris Eubank and Jaime Munguia were higher in the rankings than Jannibek, right? The only reason that those dudes didn't get the fight over Jannibek is because they didn't want to fight Andrade, right? So had any of those dudes taken the fight, Andrade would be fighting one of them, right? And we already know that Andrade wants to fight Chris Eubank. We already know Andrade wanted to fight Jaime Munguia. He called both of those guys out, right? So had any of those guys taken the fight, Janibek wouldn't even be in the position to challenge Andrade once again, right? They're higher rated than Janibek. Therefore, they should have been the one in the ring, not Janibek, right? So again, this further proves my point that Janibek shouldn't even be the mandatory, right? But the final kicker and the final reason why Janibek shouldn't even be the mandatory at this particular moment, right, is back in 2021. Demetrius Andrade successfully defended his belt versus Liam Williams, right, in a mandatory fight, right, in April of 2021. 7 months later, he was once again mandated to fight Jannibek. 7 months after he had just defended the belt from Liam Williams. But wait a minute, y'all. I don't know how many of y'all have seen my video that I did maybe like 2 or 3 days ago, right? Where I pointed out the fact that the WBO, in order to stop Andrade from challenging Canelo Alvarez, because Andrade tried to move up again in January, right, to fight Zach Parker to put himself in position for Canelo. The WBO stopped that fight by making Plant versus Canelo a mandatory fight, and also stipulating that Andrade, or the winner of Andrade Parker, wouldn't be able to challenge Canelo for another 18 months, right? So, for those of you who are following, let me get this straight. Canelo Alvarez gets 18 months after a mandatory, but Andrade gets 7? Like, y'all gotta make this shit make sense for me, y'all. Y'all gotta make this shit make sense for me, y'all. In what sanctioning body do they issue 2 mandatories within 7 months? And y'all telling me that Jannibek should be the mandatory? He's earned his spot. Andrade should fight him. The fact of the matter is, this dude didn't even earn his mandatory spot to begin with, because the 2 guys rated higher than him, Chris Eubank and Jaime Munguia, he didn't beat either of them to earn his spot, right? And then also, Andrade should be fighting one of them, not him. How else does a guy with 12 fights get to the point that he's at this particular point in his career? But again, all this proves my point. Jannibek ain't even really the mandatory to begin with, y'all. He should never even be in this position to begin with, right? But those are my points, man. Y'all get what I'm saying here, man. I'm gonna go ahead and have to wrap the video right here, man. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, and everybody, and I do mean everybody, be sure to hit that goddamn like button. You know what I'm saying? But until next time, man, I'm gonna holler at y'all. Peace.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god, stop your fucking lying.